Welcome to Albinism Talk with your host, Marvalyn Green. Now, this talk is a youth edition, young people's edition. Now, today I have an extra co-host with me, Ruby Ratnassingham, who is with me today. Hi, Ruby, good evening.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? Good day from wherever you are.
Thank you so much, sis. So we're going to open the floor to each guest that's in the room. So can everyone that's in the room please introduce themselves, please? Hello?
Perhaps if someone can share their name and what country you're logging in from.
Yeah.
I guess I'll go first. I was just trying to be, respectful and let other people go.
Okay. Go ahead, Darren.
So yes, my name is Darren St Agathe. I'm originally from the West Indies. I live in New York City, and I'm here to provide as much help or enlightenment as possible. So, by all means, who's next?
Who's next? Any other guests in the room? We've got...
Well, I'll go next. I'm Barber.
Sure.
I'm from Pakistan and I'm 24 years old.
Oh, you're welcome. And our last guest.
It's good. Good evening or morning, whatever time it is. Everyone, my name is Qiyamah Mohammed, and I'm from the United States in Washington, D.C.
Welcome.
Welcome, sis. Thank you for joining Albinism Talk with Yell4Change and Too White Ottawa. So I'm gonna go with Barber, if I'm pronouncing your name right. So yes. I'm gonna ask you a question. First of all, how old are you?
I'm 24.
Oh, that's amazing, 24. And Qiyamah?
I remember when it was lovely to be that age.
Me too.
I am 23.
Oh, you're 23. Okay, that's fine. So question I'm going to ask, and Ruby's going to come in as well with her question. So the first question I'm going to ask both of you, what age did you notice your skin was different?
Would you like me to share first, or would you?
Yeah, sure. Anyone will share. It's fine. When did you notice your age was different? What age?
You know, I actually thought about this question a lot, and I think it was funny because there was a particular moment and I just vividly remember it. And I think, and sorry I'm Ruby Ratnassingham, I'm from Toronto, Canada. I remember being, it was this moment, I think I must have been 12 or 13, somewhere around grade 7, grade 8. And I remember being in my parents' room. And I recall, I was under the bed sheet. It was summertime. I was just on the floor, just lying under a bed sheet. And the sun came through the bed sheet, and I was sitting there, and there was a moment where I had my hand up, and the bed sheet was white, or a thought in me went, well, and the light shone on my skin. And I remember thinking, well, I'm not like whiter than white. Am I? And to me, how do you define what white is? How white is white? And I remember thinking of well, maybe I would be, because I remember this moment, I thought, well, maybe I'll get a paper, a white piece of paper, and put it against my hand to see how white am I? And I was too, I didn't want to bother getting up to get the paper, so I imagined it, and I just remember that moment when I recognized my whiteness, or how the color of my skin, and it was because I think I was socializing, and so you begin to recognize yourself outside of your own family and other people. So I think that was the moment that I first realized oh, my skin is different, or the color of my skin, the of it.
Okay, Darren, do you want to go next?
Oh, well, that's easy for me. I think when you grow up in New York City and you live in the urban America part of New York City, where everybody's predominantly of African of brown descent, when you sit in class, nobody looks like you. yeah, this is like, wow, like everybody else has quite a bit of melanin or brown or dark skin. You're the only one that looks like you. But with that being said, also, I felt like, I think I've talked about that briefly before. My older brother has had albinism. He's deceased. So he and I, like we were just different than everybody else in the entire family. So it was easy for me to figure out that my skin was different. I was just straight up different. But I think most of all, I felt like that the influence of my brother, I didn't think there was a problem with it until obviously bullying came into play.
Okay.
It's really great. I think, sorry, I just wanted to, just hearing that story, and I know Darren, who I thought was just, great person to be a role model for younger men, especially. I remember, I think we've talked a lot about discrimination and racism and stuff, and it's also within our own communities, because I think one of the biggest things, and I recognize, was like it was very obvious when I came to Canada, even though I'm Sri Lankan, I'm South Asian, and the rest of my family members are brown. When I came to Canada, I was, it's really funny to tell my son, I'm like, do you know, I was one of the first brown kids in my entire grade, whereas Toronto's is the most diverse city now. So a lot of it, me knowing, like Darren said, that I was different, was that I grew up with a family of everyone else being colored or brown. And so it was quite obvious that you're different. But similar, it's like, I think a lot of it is when you have good support too. Like, my brother was just my brother, and he treated me just like a sister, and that was it. So I just grew up knowing I was different, but it's just there.
Yeah, it's yeah. So anybody have saying something before I
yeah. Qiyamah, do you want to add to that? So Qiyamah, do you want to say something? What age did you notice your skin was different?
I think it might have been around maybe 5. I know that's probably like a little later.
Right. That's about right. I agree.
And mine was 3 or 4.
I was there about 5. I couldn't even say the word the white at 3 or 4. I didn't, nor did I know the meaning. So
yeah.
So
yeah. So you said 5, okay. Barber, what age did you notice you was different?
Well, mine was the same, around 4, I would say. When I started going to school at 3, I noticed my friends, since we're in Pakistan, so everybody had brown skin. So I would always wonder, why am I different and why is everybody the same? But I did not have the answers. But I would think my skin is white. Why is my friend's skin not white? Why is he brown? Why is my family not like him? So at a very young age, I knew that I was different, but I did not know what was different.
Yeah. First and foremost, for me, I didn't know about albinism, the actual diagnosis, until I was 12 years old. I went to secondary school. I'm from Jamaica, for those who don't know. I know Darren knows that I'm from the Caribbean as well. I knew I was different, but I didn't know about the term albinism until I was in 7th or 8th grade. My teachers put me in SED, so special educational needs department. And that's when I knew something was different, something I was different in school and so forth. But I just have to say that being different is not a bad thing, but I can guess that the negative impact it has on you, when you go in the sun and you get burned. And you get burned like you can't get a tan. So yeah, so thank you all so much for sharing that with me. So Ruby, have you got any questions you would like to ask the panel?
I'm just, I would certainly like to ask, maybe, what is your biggest, where do you find your biggest support? Because the condition is rare. We don't really, as a woman, as a man, we have other people to connect in our identities. But as a person with albinism, it's quite rare. rarely have I seen people like me in person in life to connect that, oh, you understand me. So my question to the panel is, where do you find how do you get is your biggest support in life,
I don't go first, so I don't want to run and board.
Darren, you. It's all right.
I always have a lot to say because I've
It's
experienced.
all right. It's cool.
Absolutely.
It's all right.
I think that's important, right? I think we're also here to everyone else, joining in. I think we carry a bit of experience on us, and life's gonna hit you hard, and I think it's important to learn. But it's also gonna hit you beautifully. So, I think you're a great, speak on, brother.
It's all right, guys. Let's be yourselves in here. It's all right.
Let me know if you guys need to get a break of water, because if I start, I don't want to bore you guys.
Right. I have mine right here. It's all right.
So do I. But I honestly, I think personally that you have to be self-motivated. Like I would say at a job, I would say, or like as a career, from my career wise, everything. If you're not self-motivated, you can't expect other people to believe in you. So with that said, but I will give credit where credit is due to people like such as my mom and my brother. Again, my oldest brother who had albinism also. I think obviously, if you know, but like he was an influence for my self-esteem initially because I was pretty much quiet, and I'm sure if y'all can relate to that, being in school, not saying much, because you feel like once you start opening your mouth, you set yourself up for a trap of being name called. When I grew up as a child, growing up, there's a movie, I always talk about the movie Powder. When Powder came out, that's all I heard. Like Powder, if you Google it, it's a movie called Powder about a guy who had albinism, and he was like really, really pale. Like, and he had this telepathic powers to control minds and all this other power. So they called me that all through school, and that was tough. Like going to school was definitely tough. But one thing I was able to bring was I was able to use my character as entertainer. I was very humorous, and people liked that. So a lot of times when people would make fun of me, or people that there was a set of people that would make fun of you, but a ton of people that enjoyed my company. And I just hung out with that. I stayed around the people that gave me that positive energy, because the bottom line is ignorance is everywhere. Like the ignorance of others. Like we have people that just naturally bully because they probably been bullied themselves, or more important, I think people are just naive. They don't read books, or they're just because there's a difference between being, I would say, educated and being intelligent. So a lot of people are maybe intelligent but lack of education. So with that being said, I feel like for me growing up, the name calling was definitely serious, particularly once I reached from elementary to high school. College was quite a bit different. I know a lot of people with albinism. I met them face to face. I do a lot of traveling, so I've seen people from other countries all across of people with albinism, and the only thing I hate. I think you and I have talked about this more also. I hate to see. I think when people describe people with albinism, they make us look so ugly, physically, ethically. Are you kidding me? Like, are you kidding me? When you take a Google the word people with albinism, sometimes you see people, they look terrible because maybe their skin cancer, or they haven't been able to fight the sun properly. But there are really, really very attractive male and female people with albinism, and it's funny because once I got on social media, I started seeing them. I'm like, oh my God, they are so beautiful. They are so beautiful, but they don't show that.
Yeah.
Like, you don't see that nor show that. And I think the one thing I want to say is that just because we have albinism doesn't necessarily mean we're straight blind. Because like I can't speak for everyone, but I had pretty good eyesight. I never had to necessarily, and this is no disrespect to anybody who has, I didn't necessarily have to get special schooling. I just sat in the first maybe 3 rows in school, in the class, and I drive a car and do all those things, the normal things in life. But at the same time, I do know, and I think we've talked about this also again, Marv, is like there's different elements of albinism, different levels. So depending on the degree of albinism will determine your lack of eyesight, the lack of pigmentation, etc. And I say that again because some people see my hair. The first thing they ask me is like, "Is that your hair color?" I'm like, "Yes."
Yeah.
This is my actual hair. And then you've seen pictures of me as an infant, like as a child.
Yeah.
I did. Yes, this is my hair color. Like, and my brother's actually who passed away, his hair was actually lighter. But the point I'm making is that people don't know these things, and again, it goes back to education and intelligence. Like it's imperative.
So let me just say this for those who are listening. The ocular-cutaneous albinism, which Darren's talking about, the OCA, there are up to about 7 or 9 types of OCAs. So with me, I could be type 1 or type 2. And maybe you could be about type 3 or type 4. So as you said, it depends on the level of albinism, because some people assume that it's just the white skin and the blonde hair, and that's not necessarily the case, because there are some people that do have albinism and they're like light skinned and their hair is darker than mine and they have albinism. So it all depends on the degrees of it. So Qiyamah, do you want to add to that? What was it like for you? Did you get the support?
Oh, definitely. Especially with my family. They're mostly all melanated. And there's only 2 family members that I know of that have albinism, but I'm not really in contact with them much. But it's my family and with my religion, since I'm in the Nation of Islam, and it's not really like judgmental, like there's like no judgment at all. It's really like support, and that's mainly one of the reasons why I didn't know I was really albino, because it wasn't like my albinism wasn't really brought into attention much, except when I'm outside and I have to cover up and and all of that. But it's mostly that my friends.
Barber, now thank you for joining me. Barber, I'm coming to you because you're from Pakistan, right? A majority of us in here are from America and the UK and Canada. So thank you for joining, Barber. So what's your life experience like in Pakistan? Can you kind of explain to us what's it like there for persons with albinism in Pakistan? Can you share with that, please?
Well, it is quite difficult, to be honest. I mean, I'm not going to be lying here that it isn't, because as all of you shared your experience, I mean, in the Western world, it is like a bit easier to blend in, because most of the pop people there have blonde hair and light skin, so it's not much of a standing out figure. But when you come to Pakistan now, among all the brown people, someone with light skin and blonde hair stands out quite prominently. So, I mean, you get all these queries, people coming up to you, asking different questions. And I don't mind that. I actually tell people, come and ask me. I will tell you about it. Rather than assuming things about albinism, you should come and talk to me. Or for that matter, anybody with albinism, you should talk to them. Listen to their experiences. They will guide you, educate you. Like I met a kid around 5, 6 years old, and I told him certain things which I hope it helps him in life, because I had to go all through the process. So I did not want that child to go through the same process. Now, as all of you mentioned, schooling is a bit difficult because, I mean, there is not as much awareness about albinism. I mean, it is growing due to forums online, but still quite a lot of work needs to be done. So, I mean, that is what is uh, the difficult part, because, I mean, classes don't, I mean, for me personally, classes don't make a difference, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
without classes and with classes, I don't feel a difference. I mean, I get asked that question quite a lot, that why aren't you wearing your glasses? Or do glasses make you see better? And I'm like, no, they don't. Then they ask me like, why do you wear them? And I say, I don't know. The doctor prescribes them. So I mean, it's a matter of habit now. Like I've been wearing them from around 21 years. So I mean, it's a habit. I can't break it out. So schooling was a bit difficult, but then when I moved to university, it was quite, I mean, people got understanding. They were more understanding of my condition. They were more open to me telling them about my condition, educating them, and they were quite, I found it interested in knowing more about albinism. But when I started school initially, it was quite difficult, like making friends. That was a difficult process for me uh, in Pakistan.
Okay, thank you for sharing that with me. Ruby, have you got any questions before I move on? Any more questions you'd like to ask?
Just quite, I wanted to, I'm just listening to, sorry, is it Bob from Pakistan? Just sharing your story, and I'm actually quite taken by it, because I grew up, we're South Asia. I grew up in Sri Lanka, and I know growing up, even though I was, I will say that and I recently did an albinism talk for the Sri Lankan, one of the Sri Lankan journalists. It is quite different. I will say, if I can share my support as someone growing up in similar mindsets and upbringing of South Asian communities, or I think a lot of it, as you notice, once you go off, or people go off onto independence and to university and stuff, they are far more open to hearing you, because and being educated and meeting people for their, even making friends. They're there to meet you as a person, regardless of who you are, identify as. So I think that's a big step. I will say, just growing up, as my mother, as you're talking, I get these experiences, because you're right. I wonder, I had the same questions, why do you wear your glasses? And I'm like, I don't really know, because they really don't help me. Because, when we look at vision, and in many countries, we are considered legally blind, or someone with a permanent disability. It's advancement in technology that will help us, because I think it's almost, sticking a pair of glasses on a person that can't see very well, and so see, really legally blind, depending on your albinism, and saying, here, use this sensory skill that you don't have, which is our vision. So now, and I know our organization, we're looking out for places like audio technology that has advanced to help kids through school. So a lot of these accommodations, if you're in university, depending on your country, it's accessing the resource to help you. So when you're older, you have to find them yourself. You have to go to the university and say, do you have grants? Because I need a larger monitor. I need extra time with my assignments or tests, because it takes me longer. We are allergic to the light, according to ophthalmologists. So what does that look like in making accommodations for school? When you're younger, exactly what you said. I think a lot of it has, because we're so dependent on our family support to help us make those accommodations known, because we don't know much about albinism except what our parents or our family members tell us as growing up, right? So they're a huge impact, community as well. So I would say, like, just growing up, I think it's so important to find resources. If you meet people that are younger than you, as I have too, in every country, resources looks and accommodation looks different. But making sure to tell teachers that parents have to tell teachers, well, she wears glasses, he wears glasses, but what would help is actually that you make a copy of that assignment, or that you give them time or put them up closer to the front of this class. Like Darren said, kids might not know how to share that. So I think a lot of it growing up, and I just speak from coming from a South Asian community, it is challenging because it's what people think or pass down. Some families might, I was quite sheltered and I grew up with a supportive family, but when I went outside, you know, no one looked like me, everyone was brown. So they looked at me, and depending on what they knew, other kids were told about me through their parents. That's all they knew. So it's so important that when we're young to have our own confidence, build our own confidence. And then when we get older, to make sure that we become aware of resources and speak up for ourselves, because we are the educators of ourselves. So it's just,
Thank you for sharing.
Could I add something to it?
Barbara, you wanted to say something? Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
As Ruby said, I mean, so like the things are improving here as well. I mean, people are astonished the way I write. I mean, this must be the experience for you as well. I mean, I write pretty close to the paper. So, I mean, people are astonished, like, why are you writing like this? And I'm like, I mean, you don't understand. The words float when I write from afar. It's like everything gets mumbled. And they're like, seriously? I mean, it's quite difficult to, you know, convey the feeling. That is what I think is the biggest barrier in people not understanding. I mean, if I tell anybody with albinism, like, I have this problem, they can relate. They can say, oh, yeah, this is the eye experience. Like when I tell people, like, the sun, I can't open my eyes in the sun, I can't see. They're like, why? Really? Like, I mean, it is quite difficult to make them understand. But when I tell somebody with albinism, like, my eyes are very sensitive to light, and they're like, yeah, it is quite difficult to see in bright light. So it's very difficult. I mean, not especially in Pakistan, but I felt all around the world, you can't convey the feeling or the hardships you go through with albinism somebody who does not have it, because it is really difficult for them to be in your shoes and imagine what you have to go through in your daily life. And as Ruby said, she had family support. That is, I think, the biggest thing parents can do. My parents never told me you can't do anything. I mean, they always encouraged me to do stuff which normal people with not having albinism did. I was never told you can't do this because you have albinism. And that is what I think made me grow. If I had been sheltered and been in a shell, I might not have been able to complete my education, or I would have been really shy, closed. But my parents encouraged me to be friends with a lot of people, go speak to people, share ideas, tell them my experiences, learn from their experiences. And I think that is the biggest thing. I always advise parents who have children with albinism that never tell your kid you can't do this because you have this certain condition. Always encourage them, support them in whatever they want to do. Let them learn on their own. Instead of stopping them from doing something, let them learn from their own experience. It will make them a better person in the future.
Agreed. 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 Were you gonna say something, Darren? Go ahead.
No, I just said well said. Well said. That's all I said.
Yeah. So let me just add on to that as well, because I went to live in two countries. So my mom was a single mother, and I was raised by external family members as well. But I had the support from my mom as well. Like, she sent me to school, she taught me how to read, she taught me how to do certain things. And I've learned a lot, I've learned a lot, from her. And she would tell me, people like you with albinism, we're very intelligent people. Just because we are visually impaired or we were born different, that don't mean that our cognitive is, you know, it is. But I'm not saying that there are some people who do have this condition and they are mentally challenged, not all, some. And there are some people who didn't get the opportunity to go to school, like many of us did. So, and there are some people that's learned orally. So, you know, people had different type of methods to accommodate themselves. And that's something I've got to learn and I was made aware of. So the next question I'm going to move on to is, how do you cope with school, like interactions in school? Did you struggle to make friends? So how do you cope with social interactions in like your school or in your community? Did you find it difficult to make friends? Who wants
Could
to
I go first?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Barber.
So as I said, well, it was difficult initially. Like, I mean, it's
Let me see your
understandable with
face.
how.
What
Oh,
are you
I have
hiding?
my internet is quite dodgy. So when I turn on the video,
Okay.
I can't hear you guys talk. So that's why.
Okay.
So well, initially, I now understand why kids were not friends with me. When I see kids that are my age when I joined school, and I understand like why they were astonished, because I would be too if I were in their shoes. But I mean, at that age, it was quite difficult. Like, why aren't they being friends with me, or why do they make fun, or why are they different and I'm different? But then, as I grew in age, I found that people got more understanding. They were open to learning, and then when I reached around 7th, 8th grade, I found really good people that were friends with me for who I was as a person, and not because I was different, or they weren't friends with me because I had albinism. So that really helped me grow. And then since then, I've tried, whenever I meet new people or I make friends, I try and educate them. Like, in small bits, I try to convey and educate them, like how people with albinism cope with challenges on a daily basis, or what this condition is. So I do try to do my part so that in the future, their next generation does not make the mistakes which the previous did, and they can educate their kids that how they should treat people who are different, not especially with albinism, but generally who are different or are challenged in life. Because I mean, as a society or as an individual, it is our responsibility to lift people who are challenged or are at a handicapped, I would say, in some aspects of life. It is our duty to lift them up. So initially they were difficult, but in university I found really good friends. They were quite understanding. I could openly ask them. I can't see what the teacher is writing or what the computer screen says, and they would, without a hesitation, I could ask them, and they would tell me without even thinking for a second, and tell me, oh, that the teacher is writing this, or the screen says this. Or they would give me their copy and say, you can copy the assignment or write, make notes in return. So I guess that is what really helped me in my education. And I always told them, like, this is something you should teach other people as well. I mean, because people with albinism are quite misunderstood. People don't understand them quite well. And I would tell them, if you ever feel like you need to know something, instead of assuming, just come to me and I would happily be there and I'll answer all your questions. So my experience in Pakistan, and let me tell you just one thing. I mean, when I was a kid, things were different, but now everything has changed, and things are getting quite better. Like, as Ruby talked about extra time, now this was not available when I was in school, but when I reached university, this is now something which is available. You just need to write an application, and the university will accordingly guide you. We talked about extra give time. You extra time. So that is something which is really amazing to see. Like, in a short period of time, we've come quite a long way as a society, and are now more understanding towards people. So that we've come quite.
Sorry about that. Sorry about
Mute yourself.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so anybody want to add to that? Anybody else want to add to that question?
Well,
social interactions, and did any
like so much to say.
Well, me too. First,
who wants to go first? Hey, who want to go first?
I just wanted to, before we both jump in, I know there's someone else as well on. I don't know if she wanted to share. I didn't catch her name.
Qiyamah.
Gemma.
Yeah.
Anything you can
add? I guess I'll go.
Yeah, sure. Listen, it's all right.
You seem a little shy. You're a bit shy.
Yeah, don't be shy. Listen, Albinism Talk with Marvalyn. Listen up, everybody. Albinism Talk with Marvalyn is a space where we want everyone to be comfortable and to be themselves. Okay?
You don't have to make it sound like an AA meeting.
Huh?
I said you don't have to make it sound like an Alcohol Anonymous meeting.
Where we keep it real.
Carry on, camera.
Did you want to turn to the conversation?
Go, Qiyamah, your side.
But with social interactions and making friends, I feel like it might be similar to everyone else. But when I was in elementary to middle school, it was like kind of easier, I guess. I guess just because when you're younger, you don't really like judge anybody that much. So everybody's just trying to be everybody's friend. But of course, there's the few that is like look at you different because like they've never seen anybody with albinism. Then they might like call me names and stuff, but I wouldn't really let that bother me. I just focus on my other friends who would like stay with me during school days, and we'll hang out, you know, at recess and all of that. And of course, you've all noticed, but I'm shy.
Yeah.
But that's part of the reason why it's hard to, or it's been difficult to make friends. 'Cause it's like I want to talk to this person, like, oh, they seem cool, but I'm like, oh, but they might not like me. It's like, it has nothing to do with my albinism. I'm just like, oh, I might not be interesting enough, and they might, you know, dislike me, and you know, either like talk about me to their friend, be like, oh, that weird girl over there, or something like that. But but yeah, it's been somewhat difficult. I've only have like a couple of friends that I really talk to like now into my 20s, but it's like,
yeah, I think most of us kind of struggled with the whole interaction thing, because I had friends and I had some people who didn't like me neither, but then I kind of just gravitate to the people who did. So in school, I was the only one who had albinism in my class in my whole year. But then I had some people that wasn't so nice, but I kind of gravitate to like people who knew about albinism, and I was empowered by the people who really made me feel welcomed and things. I'm not a shy person. I'm not a shy person, but I had my moments where I did feel a bit isolated too. So I had a bit of the positive and the negatives as well. Ruby, what about you? What was your, did you struggle to make friends and did you?
Yeah, I'm just listening, and I said like I have so much to say, like all the experiences are so connected.
It's all right.
I think you and I need to talk, Ruby, because we can talk.
I think you don't need to share this, man. This floor is, listen.
Absolutely.
Just open the floor, man. It's cool.
You know, I what I said, what I was thinking was, well, growing up, so I think it didn't matter what country, and I grew up in, whether you know, and what the perspective of that country was when it came to people with albinism. When I grew up as a kid, I think and I'm so headstrong about this, is that I was just my personality. I made friends with who I did, and if I didn't make friends with you, I didn't make friends with you. And for the most part, I did, because I think I was just a nice kid. And and I think a lot of my friends, like, they were very confident or whatever, and so I think when you roll with those people, the people that are positive and they are your genuine friends, whether you're young or as you get older, I think that's what's good for you. So I didn't always have a hard time making friends. Now I do recall, like, I think that's also, like, I didn't feel that way. If I had one friend, I had one friend. If I had 10, I had 10. But I got along with most people. But I guess I did, that was my perspective, but I'm sure from the outside, my mother would felt that I did, I think she would felt differently. I think my mom, like, tried to encourage me to make friends, have friends, things like that. But I think she worried maybe for me, but I didn't feel it. Certainly, and I think I got bullied and all that stuff, but they weren't your friends, right? And I think that, as well, when you get older, you're I think those things, the idea of friends and how many friends you have and who are your friends changes as you get into being an adult, and you keep the people, and if you're younger, you're encouraged to do the same, is that you keep the people that are good to you around, and that are supportive and positive. So it wasn't too hard for me. I just, and going back, I thought about, if I just wanted, before I forget, with what Baba was saying, the education thing, it doesn't matter what country that you're in, developed or whether we're in Eastern countries or Western countries, community perspective and education and awareness will dictate how much people are supported. And I think even here, even in Canada, as a person that I've never felt discrimination, I'm living in it right now, and why I'm so passionate about the organization that I support. And bringing things to light. We are just one person, so we can't go around and educate everybody as much as we want to. So, things like the United Nations International Albinism Awareness, that's somebody making a call out for all the countries, right? So, because if they're aware and educated, then they can help the person. So, when you're young and in grade, 7 years old, 8 years old, you don't have the knowledge or capacity or language to tell the teacher, hey, the glasses don't really work, but maybe another strategy would be to sit me up closer to the board, or help me in other, by making a copy. But so what we do in Canada now is we have organizations that immediately get called in when a child is labeled as a person, special needs, and they come in and give accommodation strategies. I went through a regular school system, sitting in a regular class. But as soon as you're labeled legally blind, they want to accommodate you by putting you in a special needs. And, that's a great program too. But because they support you, but I could get through a regular classroom if things were modified or minor accommodations were made. So, but a child doesn't know how to say these things. So I think education is so important, and to lobby, to go to another politician, to go to another person of authority and say, we need awareness and education, because if you bring this day forward, then schools are obligated to provide this education to parents, and parents then will change their perspective and teach younger children to just be kind to everyone, right? But they don't know. So I just, hearing it, growing up South Asian, you are like this glowing light in a stream of melanin people. So you bring all this attention, and it's a condition that's very misunderstood, because education and access to education it's there, but it's not being pushed forward. So I just really wanted to share that, because I think every kid, if they're just treated with dignity and respect, can make friends, be confident, regardless of what you look like, right?
Mr. Saints.
Yeah. You get me going.
Mr. Saints.
Yes, I'm here. So listen, I know for me, going to school, like, I can't relate to a lot of people's frustrations, and I'm just going to be honest. Like, a lot of people sat there and so hearing, of a young man right there, he was speaking about, his issues with he can't see certain things on the screen, or like me being, I had my degrees in computer science, like I found ways, like I changed fonts, I did everything to make everything as easy as possible for me to work. Like, and the bottom line is, like even now, I'm in a professional work environment. I've worked in media and television. Like no one does anything to accommodate me, because I accommodate myself. I buy the things that I need to make things easier for me to work.
Yeah.
This is my office. I'm in my office right now. I bought myself, not telling people if you can't afford it, you can't afford it, but I bought myself a large monitor. I changed my fonts to that was reasonable for me. Like I thought on my feet, and I think that's what I want to tell other people. Like, you have to think on your feet, because otherwise people aren't going to help you. Like, you got to help yourself. You got to help yourself. So
exactly.
Like I sat in the first few 2 or 3 seats, the first 3 seats, because I knew, depending on which classroom, I knew which classroom I was in, how the teacher wrote on the board. If they wrote small, they wrote large. If they wrote whatever, I sat accordingly to my teacher. So I that's how I thought. And as far as reading was concerned, I know a lot of people with albinism, have to get the little magnifiers. I didn't go through that. I honestly didn't go through that. So like I read the book normally, like not so far, but it was decent enough for me to sit there, and people were wondering what's wrong. So I say these things because even though I didn't go through those hardships, the name calling was definitely there. The name calling was definitely there, particularly through high school. But I don't want to talk about the negative, because I think that's the problem.
Yeah.
And if like from
no,
my
we're gonna focus on that. No, I ain't focused on that today.
When you and I talk, Mark, I don't talk about bad things. Like I tell you about what end up the positive things I got out of it. Like, people look at albinism as a bad thing. I always tell you, like, I would learn it's just an oddity. But when I got into college, people were curious people wanted to get to know me, because they wanted to know more about me. Some of them didn't even care. They didn't even know if I had albinism. They didn't care. They just they just enjoyed my company. And with that said, that just brought on self-esteem. And I don't want to play, maybe I'm going off the tangent.
No, it's all right. It's fine.
Maybe I'm going off the tangent, but it also helped me in a dating aspect, because I was able to just, people just wanted to deal with me for me. They didn't care. They didn't care at all. So like, I feel like believing it, because they liked my like, I quote unquote, my charisma. So with that being said, like, people didn't necessarily, as I got older, didn't judge me based on my albinism. But there are, again, even up to this day, there's the times that I hate walking down the street. Somebody just says a disrespectful or comment or something of that nature. But again, that goes to show their lack of education or intelligence. So with that being said, I just either walk on by, ignore it, and brush it off as dirt off my shoulder. So I either just dirt off my shoulder, just walk by, and I say to myself, like, why do I care? What do you think about me? I'm with somebody who absolutely loves me. I think you and I have children. So why do I care? Like, why do I care? Like, ultimately in life, people, they like, there's something. I write poetry, so that's another thing. Like, that's what I ran to as my way of dealing with albinism. I wrote poetry for years, and up to this day, not nearly like I did as a kid. And that was the way I told my story through poetry, But I say that because writing the poems for me made other people understand how frustrated I was with the disrespect and name calling. But I never oh, of course, in the martial arts, I went to that for self-defense to learn how to fight and kick their behind. But I ended up learning discipline. And gave me self-control. So with all that being said, I feel like it's important for people to understand that if you so focus on your negative, the negative of being something, of being someone of different or oddity, like I like to call it, an oddity, then you're never going to find the right focus to build yourself up. And always remember this: if I say anything in life, there always are people that will bring you up to put you down.
Definitely.
So do yourself a favor and climb your own mountain without relying on someone else.
Yeah, I think what, as a community, and my opinion is this, I think most of the time people intend to focus on the negative aspects of albinism, and because of the negativity of albinism, and I think it's important that if we don't learn to empower ourselves, no one else will. And that's something I have learned, in my, I know what it is to feel dehumanized. I know some people don't want to sit next to me. I've been through it. I know what it's like to feel, alone at times. But something, in a sense, all of that, I take that as an empowerment. It helps me, shape me to be the woman that I am now. I'm 33 years old. Okay, I've lived with albinism for 33 years, and most people ask me my age, and some people say, "Oh, you don't look that." I say, "Listen, self-care is a must, right? We have to take care of ourselves, and if we don't take care of ourselves, no one else will." So I want to encourage our community that we can't just keep focusing, as Darren says, we can't keep focusing on the negatives. Let's just try and focus on the positives, focus on the things that we can do now for our community, focus on the things that we can contribute. Because most times people with albinism, and I get it, it's often misunderstood. Some people have confidence issues and some people need help. And yes, that's what we do. Obviously, for people who have experienced, we help each other build our community, and we're still trying to build our community. But in order for our community to build, first and foremost, we have to take self-accountability within ourselves, and we have to learn to love ourselves, and we have to identify, look, yes, we can't change the way that we are born, okay? Albinism is here to stay. There's so much generations of babies, no melanin babies now, okay? And we have to kind of put it out there that, hey, it is what it is. Albinism is not a curse. It's not a bad thing to be different, and I know it comes with challenges, but we can work around those challenges. And we just had a new guest. Welcome, Desiree, to Albinism Talk. Welcome. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I can get just maybe I agree to you. I didn't know what are you talking about.
So now just to kind of wrap this up, we were just talking about relationship and social interactions with albinism. So did you struggle with finding friendships, or how did you feel about social interaction where you are?
I'm also going to, Marvalyn, I have to Desiree's, I'm a fan of Desiree. I have to introduce him to say that he is actually the co-founder of Born Too White.
Hi, welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
I maybe if he feels comfortable, because we are talking to young people, he can share the story of how his experience that brought him to create the entire organization.
Yes, please share that with us. Yeah, no worries, share that with us. Welcome.
Yeah. Okay, like a relationship.
Yeah, so just before we go into, because we're gonna move on to that, we're gonna talk about our accomplishments and everything on this talk. But please kind of introduce yourself, Desiree, and tell you who you are and where you're from, and
okay. So me, I am a desire. I live Ottawa, Canada. But right now, where I am right now, I am I'm in Vancouver, I travel. So, but my country is the Burundi. I was born in Tanzania, but my parents come from in the Burundi. So let's go maybe on about like relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it's very hard to find like a girlfriend or boyfriend for a girl.
Should I
Like
take over this one? Should I take over this one? Should I take over this one, y'all?
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. He's a bit nervous. Darren, go ahead, sir. Bring it in.
Yeah, because I've definitely got experience in that. So I feel like the first thing I want to say to you is that people are always going to be curious of just about the man that you are. They don't think just because. So there's two things my mom told me, and I'm going to share that. I probably either heard it already or it's just going to provide you with enlightenment. My mother always said, never make fun of someone of something that they can't help.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody's blind, it's not funny. If someone's deaf, it's not funny. It's not a joke. Never. No. Yeah. Like you always have to remember that in life. Like it's never make fun of anything about someone or something that a person can't help, because it's so important, because you don't know what's destined for you in life. God forbid you could lose your legs or anything of that manner. So my mom always told me that, and my mom always also told me, it's like there's someone for everybody. So like you have to realize that people are going to just like you for who you are. Sometimes it's hard to believe because you're probably used to being quote unquote a hermit to yourself, not isolated, but people are going to like you for who you are. Once you see that, it's going to actually provide you with confidence. Now, I in college, I dated a lot, because and the reason why I say that is because I'll told you that first story where the first girl I ever dated in college, right?
I remember.
I always think it's hilarious. Should I tell them that story? Should I tell them that story? I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, sure, share it.
So when I was in college, the first young lady I dated in college, I remember I was walking from the library with my best friend, and a young lady was over the balcony, and she was called. She was just, I was minding my business, and she was calling me, and she was like, "Hey, you, come here." I ignored her. I was like, she's not talking to me. She's like, hey, you, come here. And my friend was like, I think she's talking to you, man. I was like, you talking to me? So I went to her. She was a beautiful brown-skinned woman. She literally said to me, you are so handsome. She's like, you're going to give me your number. Just like that. Like no no's, no yeses, no anything. She just said, you're going to give me your number, period. I'm not used to me being 18 years old. I'm not used to anybody even remotely asking me for my number, just as bold as that. So I said, you got it. You can have my number. But the point is,
how much views do you have now?
Now it's the 500.
Yeah.
I didn't hear. Is he talking to us?
I'm gonna mute you. Carry on, Darren. Hold on.
Wait,
I'm sorry.
Don't know what happened. Hold on 1 second.
Is he
Desiree?
talking to us?
Desiree, can you mute your mic, please? Mute your mic. Yeah, I'm trying to mute him. Yeah, carry on them, Darren. Sorry about that.
Let me know if I'm babbling. So the young lady, like, she took my number down, and after she took my number down, like, she definitely called me. She called me, and we ended up dating. But the best thing about this experience I had with her was that she really built me up. She didn't even mention Albert ever, like, at all. She introduced me to her parents, her mom. Her mom adored me, and I wasn't used to that because I never really had a real relationship in my life. Like, I talked to girls and I would hang out with them, whatever. But this young lady, she showed me off. And not every girl is different, but I'm making this point is because there's always that someone that's just going to love you or like you for you. She didn't even care. She did not care. Whilst people were making fun of me or asking, or why asking her why you with this white or light, blah blah blah. She didn't care. She did not care, and she adored me. So with that being said, after her and I didn't work out for other reasons, but after that experience gave me enough confidence to realize that people are going to like you for you, period. So throughout college, I dated, and no one really questioned at all my albinism at all. There were just people that was actually more curious.
Yeah,
they were curious to know me. So I feel like as a male with albinism, I feel like there's a certain they want, most people with albinism, you have to have a certain level of self-esteem, like to show that it's not a challenge for you. Because if you don't do that, like a woman wants somebody that's a protector. Most women want a protector. So with that being said, like if you don't have an element of confidence, it's hard for the woman to want to be with you, because they want you to be confident. Even if that's something you have to learn. You're not born with it. I wasn't born with it. I didn't have any in school, in elementary school. But as I got older and with experience, I became that. So I feel like you have to put yourself out there. You're going to get more no's than yeses in life, in anything.
So,
in anything.
Yeah. The internet's a bit slow, guys. So if it's in and out, it's really in and out. So am I not able to hear you all? So I'm not sure. It's technology. Carry on.
No, I hear you just fine.
Qiyamah, you?
About relationships?
Yeah. So we want to end with, listen, this is a talk where we want everyone to be themselves. So the rule is no one's allowed to be shy in here. There's no shyness allowed. No shyness allowed in here. We're no judgment. This is a judgmental free zone in here. So no shyness.
First.
I'm breaking that shy rule already, but I'm pretty comfortable with y'all. So
yeah, that's what I want it to be. I want you all to be comfortable. Be comfortable. Be yourself. It's cool.
I can't really speak on the relationship part. Firstly, since I'm part of the nation and we're not, dating.
Yeah, I remember that. Mm-hmm.
But
if I could maybe ask a question, just because I know dating is also a construct depending on where you're from, right? And what dating looks like. And maybe I'll put this out to everyone to ask, and just myself with Desiree. I know you just joined us, but I think one of the things is dating is just one aspect of relationship. It's not, as we get older, we want a partner, a companion, and so we meet people. And one thing I always said, I dated, throughout college and university. I was married to my high school sweetheart, and then I'm also I'm divorced now, so I'm in the dating world again. But one thing I said is it doesn't matter, to answer when Desiree said it is hard to date. Regardless of whether you have albinism or not, I think as a person, you have to love yourself first. And I say this to myself, to anyone I meet. We have to, you love yourself for the being that you are. Albinism is just one part of you. You're also a man or a woman. You're also, a mother or not. You're also a, whatever field you have all these parts of you that make you a whole. And when you find that wholeness in you, you can offer that to somebody else, whether that somebody is, whatever stage of dating or relationship you are. And just like Darren said, that person who is for you will understand you. So sometimes we are, you know, especially in countries of like, and we've talked about is the in Tanzania or certain aspects of the countries where being born with albinism is extremely hard because you can be murdered for it, and that's a different type of discrimination. So the mentality and society's view on a person with albinism is negative. So where, and that's even in Canada or even in England, and so people, there are some people who will just see you as negative because they don't understand what albinism is, and they just see that it's very apparent. But the question I always ask is, do you want to date someone like that? And or do you want
We're gonna talk about that in a minute. We're gonna talk about that in a minute, guys. I have to really monitor time soon, so yeah. So we're gonna talk about that. We're going to talk about that. So let me ask, so we're going to talk about, so not to cut you, Ruby, because I've obviously, we have to kind of watch time and everything. Now I'm going to ask you and Darren again. So thank you guys. If you really, would you ever date someone with albinism? Be honest, would you ever date someone with albinism? Be truthful.
Well, who's want to go first? Do you want to go first, Ruby? I want me to go first because I'm, like I told my wife.
I love this talk already. Yes.
I am brutally honest. I am brutally honest. I am brutally honest. So, like, I'm still married. So, but I'm saying that because I made that point because my wife feels that I'm so honest, and it hurts her feelings. I'm like, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. I'm just telling you the truth. Yeah. So, and my truth is, honestly, I would not. No, let me change that. I would date them to date, like, to date or as my friend. There's nothing I have personally against them at all, because I'm one. I have nothing against. I love who I am. There's nothing that I wouldn't, well, I would date that, because as a matter of fact, there's so many beautiful ones. I was like, oh my gosh, like I said, what media and what everybody else Google shows off of people with albinism makes us look physically not attractive. But I've met for social media in person so many beautiful ones, like the three that I'm talking to right here, absolutely gorgeous. Honestly, the only reason why I wouldn't, is simple as genetics. You have the albinism gene. I have the albinism gene. I want children, and I don't want my children to have the albinism gene. Whether people want to admit it or not, it's still a disability. And I don't want my child to be disabled. So it's as simple as that for me. Like, I have children. My children are brown. And I'm like, yes, I'm glad. And they have melanin. They don't have to worry about the struggle of putting on a sunscreen, etc. I don't want that. I went through it. Doesn't mean I want my kids to go through it. That's just me. That's just who I am. Like,
that's same here for me. Like, I wouldn't want to date somebody.
Know your genes.
I wouldn't want to date somebody who looked like me. Not because I have a problem with albinism per se. I think we are very beautiful people, but I don't want to have children that's gonna go through the same struggle as me.
Yeah, I don't want it. I agree with you.
I don't want that either. No, I don't. What about you, Rubes?
So I have a different take on this. And I didn't actually come to that realization until I was an adult. So I've also mostly only, I've only dated people with melanin. That's all the races.
I don't know if that's racist.
All the races. Races. We're the only race that has zero melanin. So I've dated all races, sorry, is what I mean. I've dated all races, and I have a son who carries the gene but is brown. And I was, because his father, we actually did the genetic testing, because I was curious when I was pregnant, is he, because he's going, obviously you have to have both genes to have the condition, but he's a carrier. And so he's brown. His father, to our knowledge, does not have the gene. Both my parents are brown, but they passed the gene, so they were both carriers. So now, being someone that's single and just dating, and I've actually, because I've only met people with albinism really now, and like as awareness gets more and it's seen more people, I'm open to dating people with albinism, because I do see, like Darren said, beautiful people. And there's been such a negative view on people with albinism, but I've really never met people. And I even tell my son, so I think because I was never exposed to meeting men with albinism, I've never had the opportunity to also date them. And so I think almost like unconsciously or subconsciously by choice, I just dated mostly my preference was people that were from my community, which was like brown skinned. So that was like what and I've dated other people growing up. So I think I'm definitely open to it, but I also do understand, and that is why I did the genetic testing, was, we are going to have challenges if you have a child with albinism, which is, visual impairment. Thought about that as well. And it's more of the fact that I became this person that was very self-sufficient and independent. So I think even though there are challenges, I'm also fine with having a child with albinism. So, but these are all conversations that are very important to the person that you meet in the future, right? That you want to have, and are you okay with it or not? So that's my take. I would date a person with albinism, knowing that we might have a child with albinism, and knowing that there might be some challenges too. But there's lots of challenges if you're a person of color, if you're a woman, sometimes if you're, all the BIPOC, different identities, right? But so it's just one of those things in life that I accept, and I'm okay with it. But that's my take. But it's a realization that I only came to now.
I want to follow up on that. So I would. I feel like dating is one thing, like, and
settle down is a difference.
Settle down is a different thing. I definitely would date. I would date whomever, because, like I said, when I was single, I would date. Dating is dating. Like, you just, I felt. There's a saying: how do I know what I don't want if I don't experience the people that if I don't date? So I dating for me helped me figure out what I would definitely want and didn't want. So I would date anyone.
Topic about dating, because I know some people, like, even the construct idea of what is dating and what are you dating for is
right.
From culture to culture to culture.
Right. You hit it right there, culture to culture.
Yeah, because some cultures say dating, like some cultures will be like, oh, dating means marriage straight away.
Or some, don't.
Yeah, some cultures be like, oh, dating is that, oh, you got to marry, or you courtship. So
you're right, courtship. So you made a point though about genetics, so I'm going to follow up on that, because I'm a genetics, like that was my thing in high school and college, like biology, like, so that I wanted. The funny thing is that there was rules for me for dating. Like, once I started to actually like a female, there were certain things that I needed to know right off the bat. And I think I told you that, Marv. So, like, for me, me of African descent, I have the sickle cell trait. My mom had the disease. So any person, once we started getting serious, I wanted to know if they had that trait, because I took care of my mom took care of me. So to me, that was one of the most important things, because if I have somebody who have the trait, the chances of me having a child with the disease is actually 50-50. 50-50. So, like, I have the trait, a person has a trait, and it's similar to albinism. But the difference is, me having albinism, I actually have that what I call disease, the what you call it, the positive, the actual what you call it, chromosome, the actual chromosome. Yeah. If me having a chromosome and me dealing with another female that has the albinism chromosome, it's very high. You're going to have a child with albinism. And I'm being honest, I don't want that. Not because I'm not proud of myself. I would love my child for whomever it is. I just don't want my child to because you can honestly educate and help your child the biggest and best way. Ultimately, you won't know he or her personality and how will it affect them. And honestly, I just didn't want that. I remember my struggles in elementary school and in high school. Like, it was meant for me, my journey. I don't know if like anybody else could have walked through my shoes and be able to deal with it. So if I can avoid that slight, again, what if I have this child that has albinism, and yes, I can see pretty well, but what if my child is legally blind?
Right.
That's
Right.
already taking a setback to, from my opinion, a step back for what my child could have been if I knew this already. So if I know a person that I'm dealing with and I have I have a strong relationship with them, they have albinism and I have albinism, it's going to be a very high chance that this child will have albinism. But the question is, of what degree? If I can avoid that, I will. I will, and I did it. I try to do it with the sickle cell, and I did it with albinism also. So, but
into knowing your genetics and knowing your condition, because like as you're saying that, you're absolutely right, because I have oculocutaneous 1. I know that, which means I am legally blind. So it's so important that when people make and like anyone who wants to bring a human being into this world, right, the more information you have, you can make decisions based on that, because you have to support and provide for this child. You're raising an adult, not, you're going to raise this adult into what they become. So I think absolutely, because I would say there's other conditions where I just know that even with the knowledge that I have, I would struggle to raise that child and feel things. So if you know that ahead, and again, like, and access is so available everywhere.
Right. Right, and these are the reasons why it's nothing to do with I'm not proud of who I am or I don't love my albinism community. I just I wouldn't want my children to struggle the way, if not worse than I did. I want to give them if I can give my child a better way, a better fresh start, then that's all I'm asking. That's all I'm asking. Like a lot of people don't even know why my mother was dark skinned or was dark brown, and my dad, it was light skinned, and they still had two albinism kids. Two. My middle brother is brown skinned, but the irony is that I have children. My child is brown, like a beautiful brown daughter, and that's all I was praying for. Honestly, I was like, that's all I was. Well, one of the two things I was praying for, that and the sickle cell. So when I say that, I'm going back to the sickle cell, is that my wife, she told me she didn't have it, the sickle cell trait. So I said, "Are you sure?" I was like, once we was like years involved already, I was like, the potential is there. I need you to find out. She said, "I don't have it." I married her. We having children. She ended up doing a DNA test. She ended up having the sickle cell trait. I was so angry. Because now I had paranoia.
Wait. Hold on. Wait a minute. So she told you that she didn't have the trait. So
yes.
when she got pregnant, she done the pre-testing. So they tested the embryo to see.
No, they not the embryo. They tested her, and she ended up having the trait also. So two people with the trait increases the chances of having a child with the disease. It's no different than my parents. Both of them had to have the albinism trait to have me with the child, with the actual albinism. So, I wasn't as concerned of albinism as I was with the trait, the sickle cell. So the point I'm making is that once I found out that she had the sickle cell trait, I was so disappointed, because I laughed, because I can laugh about it now. Every girl I've ever dated, I would find out they would have the trait, and I would just end it. I would tell them why, because I was like, if you experience what I've experienced taking care of my mom my whole life, you will understand why I like, the potential is there, yes, but I want children, and I don't want a child with the sickle cell disease, because I took care of my mother, and I don't want to have a daughter, a male or female son. And do you know that people with sickle cell don't live longer than their parents normally? Knowing these facts.
I had a cousin that died from that.
Yeah, knowing these facts that your child is not going to live longer than you. Would you want that child would you want to prevent that child of having the sickle cell disease? So with that being said, my wife ended up having the trait, I was so angry. Not at her, but at everything. I was like, I said, I try to look at a positive way that it was our destiny to be together. And I said to her, I'm not, she thought I was going to leave her. I said, so I laughed at her. I said, if we were just dating, I would have left. But I was like, my feelings are involved and I already love you. I said, it's totally different. I was like, if my feelings are already, that's why I would find out early before my feelings got involved. So with that said, I end up having a child and she doesn't have neither one. But she has the traits of both. Yeah. So when my child gets older, I'm going to educate her about these things, so that way she can be aware. And I will want her to do the smart thing too, to avoid any disability, because sickle cell is a disability, and so is albinism. Can you imagine having a child with albinism and sickle cell? That's tough. So,
yes.
I was wondering if maybe Babu does.
Someone just joined in
on it.
Welcome How do you, to the new, yeah.
Or not dating or
repeat
marrying.
That, so are you asking me, Ruby? Or...
I know the rest of the panel. See if the rest of the panel can.
Yeah. Can you
asking the rest of the panel, maybe Bob from Pakistan, and looks like the other lady, the young lady that's here. How do you? I know you're not. You said in Islamic culture you're not dating, but how do you feel about being in a relationship with somebody with albinism? With
what?
Oh, Qiyamah.
Qiyamah, that's it.
Well, if I were to ever, so in the nation we court, so if I were to ever be courted with someone with albinism, like I wouldn't mind it. It's like I know what to expect, and then it's just more like if we click, we click, but if we don't, then we don't. They like break the courtship off, and that's it. But it's like if it were to ever go to the stage of marriage and we're together, then that's fine. And of course, we both have the albinism gene, so our children will have the albinism gene too. If they ever get the trait of albinism, but.
So two people with the albinism, the actual positive trait disease is very high that your children, if you deal with somebody that has albinism and you have albinism yourself, it's very high that the child will be born with albinism. More about 50%. It's like a 50%. Whereas somebody that doesn't have albinism, the trait, will more than likely doesn't have the albinism at all, doesn't even have the trait, they will probably just be a carrier. That's it.
Right. And because it's like our parents, who are me and my brother's parents, they're both dark-skinned. Well, they're both melanated, I should say. And my brother, he doesn't have albinism, but I do. So I have the trait, but my brother, he still has the albinism gene. So even if he were to marry someone and have children with them, and they have
always a chance,
right? There's always a chance, since
there's always a chance, because for me, let me, can I say something? Everyone, can I just say something?
Okay.
Can I just say, for me, my parents are Black, but they're not dark skinned. My parents are actually red skinned. Darren, you've seen my mom, how Black she is, and my dad is almost like me. When I say he's almost red skin, is the only time he gets a tan you see him that is when he goes in the sun. But my dad is almost like me. I'm the only one in my family who has albinism, and I educate my family. So listen, no point you trying to tease me and ridicule me if you are all potential carriers of the gene. And when I tell them this, some of them go quiet. They're like, how am I going to be carried the gene? I said, yes, you're a potential carrier of the gene, because my grandmother was light skinned as well. So if you look at my grandma's eyes and stuff by looking at her, and I thought, yeah, she carried a gene too. And it's important that we educate ourselves about knowing that if we're, because I know definitely I'm a carrier. I don't know if my husband carries the gene.
You're not just a carrier.
Okay.
You have
the gene.
You have the gene. There's a difference between a carrier and
having the gene. Yeah.
You have it. And we all have it.
We all have it, yeah. So it's so yeah, we do. So I have the
carrier
gene. So
create a person with the disease.
Right.
So I think what I wanted to say was if two people who both have the albinism gene, not like and look white like ourselves, got together and had a child, they will have a child with albinism because
very high. There's a slight chance that they won't, but it's very high.
And that's why I don't. And
it's more than two. It's 2/3. It's 2/3.
I think what I wanted to, so just by and correct me if I'm wrong, Darren, but from my understanding, because when a child is born, they get one gene from the father, one gene from the mother. But if both of my genes are albinism genes, both my genes, either one, whether I pass one or the other, both of them will be the albinism gene because I have no melanin. If my partner also looks like me, both of his genes are also no melanin. So either of the genes that he passes will be albinism. So the child will always be out of.
There's a slight chance. Yeah. There's a slight chance that they won't. It does happen. It's just more than likely the child will have albinism.
So in other words, yeah. So like in other words,
so if you are a carrier,
go ahead.
Go ahead, Marvalyn. Oh, so I was going to say, if you are a carrier.
In other words, Jesse.
Sorry for laughing.
No, this is so interesting. Oh, I don't want this talk to end.
Listen, I'm not tooting my horn. I studied this hard because I wanted to know the steps that I needed to take to make sure I can avoid certain issues with in the future for my kids. Like I took it very seriously. So
my thought is almost 100%, but just like albinism is very rare, the fact that even people with albinism could have a melanin child would be a rarity, which is, and I guess it could, you're right, it could happen.
Yeah, it does happen every blue moon. It does.
Yeah, so that the fact that two people.
Could I add something?
Yeah, sure, but no, wait, no, hold on. Someone had their hand up. Niraj P. Wabina, welcome. You wanted to say something? Hello, are you there? I never. Barber, okay, let's move on. Barber,
good
you wanted
evening.
to say something?
Yeah, good evening. I don't want to say something. I'm just listening to you.
Good evening.
I am listening to you. I don't want to say something.
Oh, okay, your hand was up. Okay, cool.
So sorry.
You wanted? Yeah, it's okay. Barber, you wanted to say something? Sure, go ahead.
Oh, I know my name is quite difficult to pronounce. You guys can call me Bob. That's okay. That's fine with me. I can understand. So what I think, from hearing what you guys are saying, it's not that people with albinism don't want to either date or marry people with albinism. I guess it is more of the fear that their child will tomorrow be born with albinism, which is forcing their decision not to either date or marry people with albinism. Because as a person with albinism, as I said before, we know the struggle we go on on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So that is something which is driving our decision.
Yeah, I agree with him. That's what drove my decision. I'm like, I wanted to make sure my child did not go through the struggles, and we don't know how, because you were able to do what to pass these challenges. And kids in today's time are a different level of bullying. It's a different level of bullying. Like,
say that
it's
again.
A different level.
Yeah.
Would your opinion or and I put this out to everybody, if we were to live in a world where having a child with albinism and the worries and concerns that we have were no more, and that's why we have these groups and organizations to make sure that you eliminate the barriers. If in the future you see a world where the struggles that you went through didn't exist, would that change your perspective on children with albinism? Because I asked this because I struggle with with the word disability. I grew up, I think it's not, I don't want to say confident, but I grew up, I refused to let anyone tell me that, you know, what one limitation of myself was a disability, because I found a way. I found a way in others, but I understand that it is hard. So I was wondering, my question
It's
is,
hard.
I'll
It's
follow.
hard.
Go ahead.
Could I go first? I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah.
go
that's
ahead.
okay.
Go ahead, sir.
The world was a good place without discrimination and barriers. Would you bring a child with albinism? Would you change your decision, or would your decision to date be different or
I
the same?
mean, no disrespect, but I mean, as Darren said, the brutal truth is my answer would still be no. Because I mean, we can change the world, that's absolutely fine. But I mean, the conditions or the difficulties would not be reduced. Like a child with albinism would still face difficulty seeing in bright light. He would still not be able to go out in the sun. And I mean, playing outdoors for a child is quite a big thing. And when you take that out, that is something that takes a big chunk of his childhood. Secondly, when we say his eyesight would be weak, I mean, I don't know, maybe there is research going on, but as of yet, I don't know if there is any surgery available or such a technology is being developed
I tried.
that may.
Yeah.
You did?
I tried. They told me my
Nystagmus can't be corrected.
nystagmus is what stops me from getting the laser surgery. That's what they told me. I was like,
That's
I went.
yeah, same
See,
here.
They said that nystagmus is this because the eye, particularly my right eye shakes, not my left one, but my right eye
Yeah,
shakes. That's what they told me. Oh, when they told me
exactly. That is what my doctor told me, and I was like, maybe countries like the US have some technology, but I mean, I'm shocked that your doctor said the same thing.
yeah, he said things will eventually get more advanced, but he said right now, he said they wouldn't suggest me to try to do it.
See, that's the biggest issue.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know it. I mean, when the technology comes. So, I mean, bringing a child with albinism, and as Darren said, everybody of us individually walked our path, and we don't know if our child would be able to walk that path. Because, I mean, let's face it, that may it be bullying or may it not be able to see things clearly. I mean, you know, sometimes I'm saying this because you guys can relate. I sometimes, when my eyes shake, I sometimes wonder what a normal person is able to see, which I can't see because my eyes are shaking all the time and they're not. So maybe they're able to see a much clearer image. This is what I imagine all since my childhood. I've always, whenever I lit a candle, I would imagine like the flame would, you know, flutter from left to right. And I would be like, why is it this like this? And then when I studied more and more and I found out that this is a specific condition, then I would wonder maybe what would people without nystagmus be able to see. So that is something I don't want my child. I mean, I'm just answering for myself. I don't want that feeling in my child's heart. Like, as Darren said, just because of me, if I can try, I mean, we all can just try, but if we can try and, you know, reduce that chance of our kid having that, you know, albinism, we can reduce it. And I mean, that would drastically reduce the I mean, he will still be facing difficulties, but I mean, the percentage would drastically reduce because let's face it, as Ruby said, the world could be a better place, but I mean, we don't live in an ideal world, and there will always be bullies. There will always be bad people. There will always be people who will discriminate based on your skin color. So I don't want my child to be going through that, what I went.
I wouldn't either. Like that was one of the most two important things: the sickle cell and the albinism. Like I just wanted to make sure. Although I don't think like some women don't care about the albinism, but the sickle cell was the main part for me. Like it was just too tough for me to take care of my mom.
Yeah,
it's
hard. It's hard where you having albinism is one thing, but having sickle cell or any form of genetics alongside it, it's like a double edged sword.
But if you can avoid it, if you know your genes, and this is, I want to emphasize that, if you know your
Yeah,
genes,
exactly.
which I did, I took the time to know it. And again, every person out there, I asked, I try to find out everything about them. Like that. And it sounds like I'm being nosy, but I'm just being cautious because the potential is there.
No.
Yeah,
Exactly.
if the potential is there with somebody that you really want to be with, you want to make sure that we have a opportunity to be a family. Like, why not? Why not? So I also feel like I think what's also a problem with us with ours is just that I feel like you said it's like everybody looks at it as a disability. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't know it was legally a disability until I got out of college. In America, I think I told you about this, Marv. Like there's scholarships and stuff for that. If I knew all that, I would have practically went to school for free.
If I knew about scholarships, boy.
Yeah, I wish I knew about all that until I found out after I finished school. But
that's one of the things I wanted to say. Like one of the things that I think benefited me and was that my parents, like so in Sri Lanka where I was born, it was the lifestyle that you have is very difficult if you have as a person with albinism back home. In Canada, by 9 years old, my parents already registered me, and with the organization, they knew that I have a legal disability and a permanent disability. So my parents were, I think one of the things was that we were always resourceful. I mean, there were everything from getting bursary grants and subsidies for house renovations to school.
I wish I knew that.
My parents, because I think if you're lucky, there is government funding available, but it's about like identifying yourself and when do you do that. And I think that because of that, and I wanted to say, like, sorry, there's so much thoughts going, but what Bob was saying, I think for me, I think you're right. Like when I look at my skin now, or I look at someone like, yes, it's a disability. I struggle so hard because I did get the support and resources to a point where I don't see myself as having a disability, even though I know I don't have a sense.
It's true.
My background was. Yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to, like, before my thought, I was going to say, like, my background is in social work and education. So I know, like, as a vision is your last sense to develop. Like every baby is born blind when they're born, and then your hearing, your touch, all the different senses develop, and then your eyes develop. So I remember a couple of years ago in Canada, there's an organization, they came out with this device called eSight, and it gives you the vision of 2020. It's like a technology, it's real time. And there's a video up on, and I'll send it to you, Bob. The first time I felt, all my life, I wanted to know, what is a person who sees 20, like with perfect 20/20 vision, what do they feel? And I remember using this device, and I cried because I was like, oh, this is what everyone sees. Like, it was a immense experience. It's not advanced enough that it allows us to drive, but it's pretty expensive. It's fairly expensive, and it's not covered by the government. But it is, that's one of the devices. But you can't do a lot of things that require your vision. But one perspective I have is that as a blind person, and especially, legally blind person, I also think about the people that are, there's stages or levels of blindness, and people that are considered blind. We are considered partially sighted, legally blind. So I think about the blind child.
Yeah, because that's what I've been classed as.
Sorry?
I've been classed as partially sighted in the UK. I've been classed as partially sighted.
Yeah, partially sighted, legally blind.
I'm partially sighted.
Child, the blind child, and I'm like, well, technology has never changed for people with vision, outside of glasses and maybe laser eye surgery, but we don't think about using our other senses to navigate, and that's part of what I was taught growing up. Like, I don't use a cane, but that's something that lots of blind people.
I've never had a cane, thank God. Right. I never had a cane, but I had vision. Sorry to cut you guys. I had vision training. They trained me. In the UK. I had them from the Royal National Institute of the Blind. So, and they trained me in school to kind of get myself out. So even though I had my vision impairment, I can get around, but I still had training in school. It was a part of the inclusion policy in the UK that, you know, if anyone low vision or
Can I
low
ask
vision
you something?
or yeah, sure.
I mean, sorry, I'm cutting you guys, but I mean, just for reference,
Okay.
like Marvalyn, you said, and Ruby, you said, you both are considered legally blind. So, I mean, what's the threshold? Like, what vision do you need to have to be considered legally blind?
It depends. In the UK, you have to have a certain amount of score to be legally blind. So I'm not sure about the score. I'm not an expert, but
so I will just jump in just to say this, because I believe it is across the board for all, because they're ophthalmologists. So I think across the board, it's the visual acuity, it doesn't matter where you are in the world by
because they said I was borderline, so that's what I'm passing.
So yeah, the visual acuity of any person to be considered blind is 200. But if it's a surgeon, on your best eye is or your best eye is a 200/20. So anything above that means you're legally 200 and above would mean you're legally blind to blind, depending on your thing. So anything under
that's my eyesight. That's my eyesight, but I'm surprised we don't have such a rule here.
Government considers that a permanent disability. You might be, so I am considered legally blind, but you also have to be recognized as permanently disabled. So that there are two different things. So an optometrist, your eye doctor, or an ophthalmologist can say that you're legally blind because this is the threshold. Your government has to then recognize as a permanent disability. So depending on the country that you are, from me, for instance, in Ontario, Canada, the government then takes that visual acuity, that threshold, and says, you, according to the revenue agency, declare you permanently disabled, and that qualifies you for all the different services that the government gives. Your government will give to people with disabilities. So it's really up to you to do your homework, get educated, get yourself recognized as having a disability. That, you know, people tend to hate that word sometimes, like, oh, you have a disability. I'm like, I have a disability. I get free stuff. I get free flights.
Yeah, I get asked that too, but I have no shame of saying, yeah, I'm visually impaired. I say, yes, I have visually impaired due to albinism.
That's the thing. I mean, if you don't say that, or I mean, if you don't consider that, I mean, then you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. Guys, let's face it. I mean, somebody with a 20/20 vision you can't compete with them. I mean, let's face it. I mean, personally, I can't compete with somebody who has 20/20 vision. Like, how can you see as clear as they can? So, I mean, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. As Ruby said, I have that permanent disability recognition certificate, so it is recognized. But I mean, the legal blind thing, I don't know if it exists. I'll have to research that out.
Because with that certificate, so with that certificate in the UK, so you have to put yourself on the partially sighted register. So that also protects you in the UK because they have the law, the Equality and Diversity Act 2010. And what that law covers is anyone who has disabilities, equal opportunity, race, religion, quote unquote. So that law covers anybody who's also legally blind or partially sighted. So so if I go to work and say, I'm visually impaired, I'm covered by law in the UK because they're not allowed to discriminate me. They can't give me the job because they have to either don't want to take me or they don't, but they're not allowed to discriminate me because that's under the Legislation Act. And so even if you have a certificate that shows you're partially sighted, that's also recognized in the UK as well if you're on the blind register or you're on the partially sighted register.
And just to make a point, I know this isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just I was saying
Niraj
that. I
said
mean,
that in where he's from. Niraj said that I'm gonna show. He said that in India there's a certificate for the blind. He's got his certificate for his vision impairment. Thanks for sharing that.
yeah, I mean, just to make a point, I was just thinking when the Ruby asked about dating somebody with albinism. I mean, just one thing which I think is like when you date somebody or either marry, it is like you're supposed to take care of each other. So this is what I think personally is if you date or either marry somebody with albinism, they're going to have the same problems as you. So I mean, then how would you be able to help each other? Like you now your partner can't do the same things as you can't. So I mean, it would be like you both would be in the same situation, like rather than if you date or marry somebody who does not have albinism. I mean, they can drive and they can go out in the sun. So I mean, there are certain aspects, and this is what I think personally. If you date or either marry somebody with albinism, then it's like you're stuck in the same situation. And what I feel is when you're with your partner, it should be a mutual, understanding that you're supposed to help each other. Now, as we can't see too well, they can help us in certain aspects, like they can drive us to certain places, or they can help us read. Like, for example, when you go to a restaurant, I mean, this is from personal experience, there are restaurants which are where I can't even read the menu. It's too small. And it's sometimes really embarrassing to,
Oh my God,
ask
I'm glad you
somebody.
brought that up. Hold the thought. Hold that thought for a second. I didn't mean to cut you because I was going to talk about that. That was my next point I was going to ask. Now you've touched it. I'm going to go right into it. I'm so sorry if I cut you, Bob, but I'm going to ask the panel, everybody in the room. When you go to, like say you go to a restaurant or you go anywhere, say in a public settings now, I'm going to ask everyone. I want everyone to contribute to this. What are ways that you navigate to help with your visions? I'm going to share my story. I'm going to go first. So if I go to a restaurant or if I'm going to go to like McDonald's or something, I know McDonald's, it has the pictures. So if I wanted to get a Big Mac, I know what Big Mac is. Now, I worked in McDonald's and the print was very small for my eyes. It was like a size 8. And I share this with you, Darren, I can't see size 8. Only 11 and above is fine, but not smaller than that. So what I had to do was either I will ask somebody to read the menu for me, or what I'll do is I will just say, can I just have a Big Mac meal? I'll just write it. That's what I do. So that's one of the ways I had to navigate and help accommodate myself in work. Anyone else? So who wants to go next?
I guess. Oh.
Go ahead. You don't speak much, so you can talk.
Go ahead, Qiyamah.
Well, one thing that I do, if my family, we go out to a restaurant, I'd either ask them to, read the menu out for me, since they can see better. Or if we're sitting down in a restaurant, I'll just take my phone and light up the menu with the flashlight or, the camera, so I can just zoom in on something before the waiter comes back. But then again, it's also like, I always order the same thing anyway, so I'll just get what I usually get, not try anything different. But that's usually what I do if I can't read the menu.
Yeah, so can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah. So one of the things that I do, if I know where I'm going, the restaurant where I'm going, where is it located, I actually Google it and look up the menu myself ahead of time to figure out what I'm going to eat. So that way, because sometimes, most times I go to the restaurant, I can see the words, the editing, how it is. But sometimes it's not even just because it's so small. It's because it's so dark. Because it could be a romantic setting. With that plus the fact that like it's too small, I don't want to struggle. So I'll look it up, figure out what I'm going to order ahead of time. So that way I can be ahead of the game rather than sit there, struggle. Or like in my wife has 20/20 vision. So I'm like, if that's the case, I'm like, just order it for me, figure it out, order it for me. So that's what I would
Ruby,
suggest.
what
Like,
did you
find the menu, look it up, and figure out what you're going to order ahead of time, so that
That's a
way you
good
don't
way.
have to embarrass yourself.
Yeah, that's a good way, you know. You can either take a picture of the menu or Google it. That's actually a good way. Ruby, what do you do when you go out, say if you're going to go to a restaurant or if you're going to go just anywhere in the public, what do you do to navigate your vision? Ruby? I don't know if you can hear me.
You're mute.
Mute. A lot of things are, again, like strategizing ahead of time and preparing yourself, because you know your own limitation. So I know if I'm in a, at a fast food restaurant, like everyone, a lot of people mentioned, I take a screenshot, zoom in, see what I want to. If you're in a restaurant, if you're with people that, like a lot of my friends, they know, so they've got it down packed, like routine. They're like, they know what I like. They'll read the category, and if I'm interested, they'll keep going. Outside of that, if I'm by myself or if I'm within a group of people, I'm, never be embarrassed to ask for what you want. You're at a restaurant, ask the waiter to help you. Just say, I'm having some, because they're gonna, before, when I was younger, I would do this, try to get the lighting just right. It'll be up to here, but I am struggling. So rather than doing that, I'll just let the waiter know that I have a low vision. You read out the categories of the menu, and if there's something that I'm interested in, I'll do that. I also just wanted to just on what Bob said, I know and again, like thank you for this great space, Marvalyn, to share all our different thoughts and ideas. One thing, when you said that we can't compete with someone with vision, I understand where that comes from, and I agree in many aspects, but I'm also someone that says, no, find a way to, you may not compete in certain things that maybe not, be for you. I can't see very well, but I can still type a lot faster than most people who have vision, because you don't necessarily need vision to type or play the piano or do certain things. So it depends on, when you say competing, it's also finding, and for every person with albinism, it's different, right? Like I'm oculotinus 1, so I'm up on the blind side. So it's just navigating your own senses and finding out what you're good at doing with the abilities that you have. So I always encourage myself and people, like, never say you can't compete. There are barriers, but to the best of your ability, you can make an effort. And in some instances, you're far ahead than in certain aspects than other people are, especially when it comes to, Darren mentioned poetry and communication and writing skills. We improve so many things because of our lack of vision. So I just wanted to share that aspect as well. So learn to navigate whatever you're doing, because we live in a visual world. I'm always going to be at a restaurant, and it's always going to be a physical menu.
Y'all. Sorry, my internet crashed.
Oh, there you go. Mind you, that's changing now. We have apps as well, so you can zoom in, or they have like little robots that take your order now. So times are changing a little bit.
Sorry, everyone, my internet just crashed. I didn't catch everything, so I don't know what happened, but my internet just went disconnected. So apologies. Anyone wants to add to that question?
No, I was going to.
Go ahead, Bob. Did you want to add to that question? Because guys, we've got to run. We've got to run down because time is really speeding away. So we're just gonna keep it short because time is really.
Yeah, just one little thing. I mean, to be honest, before I was embarrassed. When I was younger, but now I don't even care what people think. I just like zoom, use my phone camera, or I just put the menu card really close to my face, and I don't really mind what people think or say. I mean, it's me who's paying, and it's me who's there for myself. I'm not there for other people. So I'm at a stage now where I don't even care what people are thinking or what they might say when they look at me. So
that's one thing. I've come out of that stage where I would feel embarrassed, about, or even as you guys mentioned, I asked the waiter simply, could you just please help me read the menu? And they're more than happy to do that.
That's amazing. So I'm just gonna wrap this up, everybody. So time is our greatest enemy. Thank you to everyone that's taken part to Albinism Talk with myself, and it's so important that we learn from each other, and I have learned to navigate ways with my vision. And there are times if I can't see something, yeah, zoom in the camera. That's what I do. I do that as well. So just a final thought, and the last question I'm going to ask to everyone. So what will be your message to the albinism community regarding themselves? So Darren, I'm going to go to you first. What will be your message towards the albinism community? What's your empowerment message?
Life is what you make it. Like if you sit there focused on what's going wrong or why you can't make it, you probably won't.
Qiyamah, what would be your message for the albinism community?
My message would be that don't think that you can't do anything, because you can do anything that you put your mind to. So just, have confidence in yourself and and know that, like, if you want to do something, you can do it.
Barber, what's your empowered message for the albinism community? What will be your message?
I would say two things. First, be strong, be proud, but you can do whatever you put your mind to. Second, stick together, talk to other people with albinism, tell them, share experiences, help them out, help kids, especially help parents who have children with albinism. And I would appreciate if people with albinism talk to each other more often and just, shared experiences. I've learned so much from today's session. It's really amazing. Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, you're most welcome. Ruby, born to White Ottawa, thank you so much for joining this collaboration with the Queen of Y4C. Thank you so much. And what will be your message for the albinism community where you are?
Thank you, Marvalyn. Thank you, Yell4Change. We're so grateful to be a part of this conversation. My message to people with persons with albinism will be encourage yourself, orient yourself in what you want to be, and share love, give love, and be love.
So I don't know if Niraj wanted to say something. Niraj, do you want to share something? Do you want to say something?
Thank you, Ruby, for inviting me on this conversation. And I would like to just...
You're welcome.
Okay, thanks.
No, I said you're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah. People, there should be a lot of awareness regarding albinism, so that people can come to know regarding it. Yeah.
If you can repeat that, we just had some technical issues. If you can repeat that again.
Sure. I would like to say that there should be a lot of awareness regarding albinism among other people, so that we can live very happy.
Can you say that again, please? Yeah, we couldn't hear you.
Sorry, Marvalyn, we can hear you. I think you're just lagging.
Amazing.
Behind.
So that is it for this session. Thank you everyone again for taking part in Albinism Talk. Hello?
We can hear you. We can hear you loud and clear.
Internet is going out again.
We can hear you.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
hello.
I just wanted to make sure, because it froze a moment ago. So I just wanted to know if anyone can hear me. Yeah. So I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for joining this talk. And remember that Yell4Change is on all social media platforms, and this will be on our YouTube channel. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel. So thank you so much for listening, and I've learned a lot from everyone. So internet's been playing up. I do apologize for the technicalities that's taking place right now. I don't know what's going on. Internet decided to behave bad. Yeah, Ruby, you wanted to say something?
No, sorry, the gentleman just before me was sharing his experience. I think there's a technical difficulty. Maybe he can repeat it.
Yeah, Niraj, can you repeat what you said before? Ruby didn't hear it because there was an internet connection.
I would like to say that there should be enough awareness regarding our albinism among other people so that we can live the life easily.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much again. Apologies for the internet signal. So again, Yell4Change is on all social media platforms. And once again, we want to thank each and every one that took part. And I hope that you all were very comfortable having a chat with me, and also Born to White Ottawa. I want to thank Ruby for taking this time out on this day also. So we want to thank everyone. I just want to empower that you are all beautiful and you're amazing. Keep being amazing. Wear your golden skin with pride and honor. Don't be ashamed of who you are. And that's my empowerment message. As the founder of Yell4Change, I want to empower albinism and encourage our community to be one force. And if we don't stand together, no one else will. And division is not okay. You know, we stand together united. Okay, so thank you again for your time with me, Marvalyn, and Yell for Albinism. Together we stand, together we can. And also, I want to take the time out to say Happy International Albinism Awareness for June 13. Much love to all of you, and God bless you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Miss Marvalyn and Ruby, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for everyone that joined. We hope to have more of these conversations throughout the next few months and ongoing. It's a great experience. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.